Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the blessings that you've shown us already this year, the improved health in my household, and the plugging into the second church that we go to has really paid dividends already. I also want to thank you for the good friends that we have and their bravery for sharing their testimonies. And that's what this podcast is all about. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All my rowdy friends are Christians now. A testimony podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the All My Rowdy Friends Are Christians Now podcast. My good friend is joining us today. He marches to his own drummer, if he hasn't taken the drums away from the guy who's playing them, and marched to his own beat. He hasn't been necessarily rowdy since I've known him, but more like a untamed kind of free spirit, kind of free thinker guy. He is unlike anyone I've ever met for his self-confidence and risk-taking and out-of-the-box type thinking. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Theo Hanson.
Wow, man, I love it. You got to do my intros everywhere I go. That's awesome.
For a small fee, yes, I will.
Right on, man. Let's negotiate and get that contract. And,
right.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Praise God. What a blessing, what a privilege. And thank you for taking the time out of your life to be able to bring the gospel forward and to talk about what happens when our rowdy friends meet Jesus.
That's
so
right.
Stay rowdy.
I've always respected you for thinking that way, and also I've always been worried about you for the same thing.
Everybody has.
I know. All right, so let's get down to it. What was instead of asking about your childhood, I'm going to ask you about something that happened in your childhoods, your original view of church people or Christianity.
That they were, they were, they were monsters when no one was looking, and they were saints when everyone was. And it's just crazy. I grew up with my mom being a New Ager, and so I saw a lot of weird stuff, seances, and all the New Age you can get into. And she marries. She decides she was going to be a Christian. We go to a very crazy church right there, back in hometown in East County. Denny Goodell had a church called Evangel Center, and so they start going there, and she meets a stranger, marries and run away. But they were, my parents were, they were saints on Sunday and sinners the rest of the week. Just didn't have good control of themselves and their anger, and a blended family. It was just it was a crazy mess, and that was a crazy church. Denny Goodell would later be arrested for a variety of illegal actions.
Wow. Did you know your dad?
Crazy church. I never knew my dad. I didn't. I didn't talk to my dad until last year, or maybe a year before.
Oh wow.
Yeah. First time ever.
Did you like him?
Yeah, he's cool, man. He's fun. He lives in Florida, and it was a lot of fun to get past the nervousness that he was having, and just you can understand. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just asking questions because my son, was asking questions about origin story, where we come from, and he was able to shed some light on some stuff, and he had some funny moments. We talked for about 3 hours, and on social media, he'll always be thumbs up and all my stuff, and I'll defend him, and it's a lot of fun. But he's married and wonderful wife, and he's got a couple of kids. But I'm the oldest, I think.
So your mom raised you, and did you have brothers and sisters?
My mom got pregnant when she was visiting out in wherever that is, in Indiana, and right across the bridge, Louisville, Kentucky. And so she came home and realized she was pregnant. So she did what every other hippie does in those times. She's just going to raise them on her own. Oh. And then she got pregnant again. About 4.5 years later, she had my sister. So I have a half-sister with a different father. And then my mom married a stranger when I was 9 years old, guy from church, John Chandler. She's been on like 3 dates, and they just talked once in a bunch. She's like, "Hey, are you proposing to me?" He goes, "Yeah, I think I am. And do I think we should go on a date?" I mean, just the insanity of people. So she married a stranger when I was 9, and then he moved two of his 3 boys moved in with us right away. Quite the mess. Yeah, but I have a stepbrother that's about 6 months younger who passed away 2 years ago.
Oh no!
And then alcoholism, and then another one that's his younger brother that we reunited. We hadn't seen each other since 1987. 86 maybe, and he reached out for me during the pandemic, and we reconnected, and we just love each other, and he's a believer, and just hard life.
Did you get along with that guy, stepdad?
Did I get along with my stepdad?
Yeah.
No, nobody got along with my stepdad. He was Big Bad John, man. Yeah, he was. He was pissed off, man. He was supposed to play for the 49ers, got drafted to Vietnam, and got a significant injury to the arm. Lost an elbow in a booby trap. Came back pretty upset. Found out his wife decided she wanted to be in a same-sex marriage with some other flannel-wearing chick, and she took the kids and moved off to Georgia. So he got jilted, and he'd been abused as a kid, and he was real good at abusing people as an adult, and that started showing up right away in the new marriage and the new having a dad. He was 6'2" and 270, just built. I mean, just super built like an NFL athlete.
Did that make you tough, or did that make you miserable, or both, or?
Well, the end result is you're going to do one of two things. Well, one of three things. You're going to kill him, kill yourself, or you're going to come out tougher. So I chose to try to kill him. That failed, and I just came out tougher. So,
wow.
Yeah, you just when you're enduring stuff like that goes on and those experiences, he was real violent when he was angry and supposedly being a disciplinarian. He had lots of hospital visits and lots of broken bones and parts and pieces.
Sorry to hear that.
But at the time, you don't feel like you're going to come out tough. He's trying to take all your agency. He's trying to take your sense of power. He wants you to be powerless. What kind of monster needs to take the power from a 10-year-old? But
yeah,
that's what he needed to do. And
did your mom survive that?
Strangely, my mom was just really not a good place to be a mom. She was 2 when her mom died, and she went into foster care, having 5 half siblings and 1 full sibling. My grandfather was a commercial fisherman, so she didn't really know how to be a mom, and she purposely went out and married John because she wanted to have a good masculine influence. Because I was 9 years old and raised around women, and so I think for her there was a pure motive there, but pretty quickly she just got involved in discipline in an effort to try to reduce the violence, and she just became just as violent. So it just saw the worst side of both of them. You lived it for a long time, but we go to church on Sunday.
Yeah, right. What was created in you out of that?
I think that I always got away with. I was always able to separate that they didn't represent God. And that church wasn't perfect, and that church wasn't going to save me. People that saw me get beat on weren't going to save me. But I found church as a teen. I thought that church was a great place because there were other people that seemed more normal and didn't know all the back end stories. So I was real happy to be a part of that. It didn't give me the warm fuzzy, about being. It wasn't a good role model for having faith, but I also I knew early on that was them being that, but that's not what the Bible said to do. But I don't think I was real deep in biblical knowledge at the time, but I was able to separate and have a distinction, that they were doing the best they could, and if it wasn't for Christianity, I'd never have a reprieve. They behaved for half a day.
Did you feel alone?
Yeah, you feel there's a lot of aloneness. So, those are my stepbrothers, and there was a lot of dynamic of my one stepbrother was 6 months younger and real strong and real capable, but not fast, not smart. And I was a scrapper. I was quick, thin, fast, picked up everything really quick,
right.
Academic. Physical, you teach me to do something repetitive, shooting, no problem. I can do that over and over again. So there wasn't a good harmony, with them, and I think it just created more. And then the younger one was just too young. He was closer to my sister's age, and so it didn't really start a real good connection. We tried to kill each other lots of times growing up. Hide in the bathroom, the door locked, and watching the barbecue steak knife come through the door. Whoa!
So when did you get out of that? Like before 18 or?
Yeah, just before. Unfortunately, my sister came to me incredible woman. Just, I love my sister. She's my half sister, but she's just this real special person. And she came to me one day at church and just said, "Hey, I'm going to talk to you." And I was like, "Hey, come on, I'm trying to play around with all the kids and the girls." I think I was 17, and she said, "Hey, John's been hurting me." And I was like, "Oh, like, what do you mean? Like, he beats on us, not you?" And she's like, no, he's been doing sexual stuff." And I was like, "Oh man." And she was like, "You can't tell nobody." And I was like, "Well, that doesn't really make any sense." That lasted about 24 hours. And so I pulled a grenade on the family, and he started to, I just wanted to go to church, to be totally honest, that evening. And he said, "No, I want you to stay home," and gave some dumbass reason. And I just said, "Hey, don't talk to me, you child molester." And my mom goes,
Uh-oh.
She goes, "Do you know what that word means?" I'm like, "It's not a word, it's 2 words, Mom." "Yeah, I've been spelling St. College levels since 6th grade." And man, he started chasing me around the house. He wanted to shut that down real quick, and it didn't go the way he thought it was. It was a pretty epic evening. So I was still small. I was probably 145 pounds, and he's chasing me around, and I clocked him in the chin and knocked him out, but unfortunately he fell on me, and so I had to try to climb out from underneath his heavy ass and run out the door long enough for him to get all upset and make sure it was clear to come back and then have that conversation. So yeah, pulled the pin on it and blew the family up.
Did you take your sister with you or no?
Yeah, at the time. So what happened is we put him out, but then my mom would later be a psycho. So she went and told, one day she said to my sister, or said about my sister while my sister was standing there, she was giving her a hard time. I said, "Mom, you gotta be easier on her." And so like, "It takes 2 to tango."
Oh my God, no.
Well, I was like, "Whoa!" She was 4.5 when it started. She was 10 when she came. And so, like, "Are you serious? Like, what's wrong with you?" So I just said to my sister, "Grab your stuff." And so I finished raising my sister, still me, and she made her way through. And my sister's amazing. I just love her, acknowledge her. I wish she loved the Lord the way that I do. I think she has her own version of reality or religion, rather, that she explains. But she's smart, and I respect her. I believe that she believed in Jesus, and I believe that we'll get to the other side of all this, and we'll be together in the same spot. But man, I sure would love to know in my heart of hearts that she relies on Christ for her salvation. But I don't know that that's true for sure.
So you played the Survivor game since you were 17 until when did you meet Kim?
I was a mess. At 23 years old, I was starting to get it sorted out. Yeah, I was 23 when I met a little hottie who was 27 and a half.
Okay, and she didn't necessarily set you straight right away because you guys had a kid together before you were saved, right?
Before we were married and before I would walk back in, it was an embarrassing. I don't think that anybody should, be impressed by it at all. But there's a period where I was a young adult, maybe about 19, and I was just looking to make the pain go away, and I just wanted to get into all the debauchery I could, a lot of that sexual in nature. And I prayed to God. I said, "I feel like you're restraining. I can tell your presence. I can tell that you're not letting me get into the trouble that I'm capable of, and I want you to take your hands off of me." And I understand. I get it. That means that I'm giving a gift back, and like I'm going to hell or whatever. And I just honestly don't care. I just want this pain to go away, and I want to be happy for him. And I get it. You don't ever have to take me back. I won't ask and do it. So I operated from that place and always knowing that I could still see his restraint. So I was probably getting a little bit more normal, but I don't know. I always do stupid stuff, man. I just really do. So my friend said, "Hey, you want to go to this San Diego's biggest stud competition?" I was like, "No, why would I want to hang out where guys are?" He's like, "Dude, girls are going to be there." So we went down there. It's that really cool complex over in Mission Valley where all the ball players live and stuff. And we go and I end up winning the competition and get invited to go on the dating show studs. And so we're sorting all that out. It airs in August. I meet Kim in September. So like I'm so far from normal at that point, but she was just coming out of a divorce. And I think she was probably thinking worldly thoughts, and so she wasn't. I don't think she thought we were going to be a couple. Heaven forbid, no one would go after me, especially because she already had two beautiful boys, and she had to be a great mom to, and always has been. But I think she was just looking to work a few things out, and we ended up becoming quite behind them.
Okay, so she had her two kids. You guys had kids together before you got married. And then she laid down the law and she said, on the last podcast, she said, I don't want to do this anymore. Either we're going to be married and do this right, or we're going to raise our son separately.
Yeah, don't listen to her. She lies a lot. No, she doesn't ever lie. She said, the way she said it was, so she said one day, she goes, we're pregnant. And I was like, that's funny. I don't feel pregnant. I don't have any nausea or anything. I was looking at her like, so you're pregnant? And she's like, no, we're pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And so we had a little boy, and he was born, and we were trying to make it all, make life make sense. And we had shared custody of her boys every other week. So the deal was whoever closed escrow first on a house was where we would move to. And so the kids would be based out of. And so we did that. And then she's, Austin is a little dude. I don't think he's even hardly a year old. And she said, God can't bless our relationship if we don't get married. And I was like, oh, yeah. No, don't ruin a good thing, man. The marriage don't go no place good, man. Why would you want to do that? And she's like, because I want it. And I was like, all right, where do you want to get married? And she's like, there's a church across the street. And I remember telling her, that's a Presbyterian church. I could never get married in a Presbyterian church. She's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I just thought something you're supposed to say. So I said, we don't even go there. So we got married, and that was awesome, man. That was spectacular. And she said, God can't bless our relationship if we don't marry, if we don't go to church. I'm like, man, I gave you an inch, you took a mile.
Yeah.
Like, I got to tell you something. God don't want a relationship with me. I might have made a deal with the devil. And she was like, that doesn't even make sense. So off we went, man. We went to Shadow Mountain.
Right.
For Sunday morning. And I sat down and I said on the way, I said, Lord, I take responsibility for my prayer and my deal. It's cool. Look, I'm in a different place, and I wouldn't mind one with you if you take me back, but I totally understand if you can't, but I'm too dumb to know the difference. So you're going to have to give me a sign that we're cool, or we're all right, or you don't want me here, or I'm out, The whole thing, the sermon, I was super happy. I was like, man, this is great. God hasn't given me a sign. I'm Audi 5000. Like, I don't have to go to church. And then I went to get up because everybody was leaving. I remember the row. I remember the exact seat. I just couldn't move. It was like a piece of rebar had been driven to the top of my head, all the way through my body, out my butt, and to the seat and into the concrete. I just couldn't move, man. And the kid was like, are you going? And I looked at her, and I was just helpless. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. I just started crying.
That's your sign.
Yeah, it was just overwhelming. But just even right now, I want to cry over it. It was huge, man. And I was like, all right, God, I got the sign. We're back, right? And then it was like the release, and I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Kids like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, just me and God just had a moment. I guess we're going to church from now on.
That's amazing.
It's huge.
Wow. Okay. Once you're saved, and you're smart enough to understand what happens when you're saved, did you start realizing maybe some personal benefits?
Great question. I don't think I looked at religion as like, what's in it for me? I think I was always looking at it from like, what does he expect from me? Okay. Like, so I wasn't around any kind of prosperity gospel. I didn't know God was an ATM where I could ask for crap. I just was like, man, I got to figure this out, and we ended up bouncing over to Sunrise at the time, was a church on the Grow, and another, again, San Diego's got mega churches everywhere. Throw a rock to hit one. And so I went over to that church and tried to get involved and find out, what it meant to serve in ministry or something, and just to be, part of something, to give and not just get. I don't think that life got much easier being a Christian. I think it got a little harder. I didn't feel like there was any new ease and flow or prosperity or abundance. I felt like there was a lot of pointing out where maybe I need to tighten up character and ethics and morality and behavior and words and stuff like that. So for me, it was much more about trying to understand who God was. And so, a lot of those big churches are people go there mile wide, in their belief, but they're only an inch deep in their faith and their knowledge of who God is. And we could feel that. We were definitely sensing that, after a couple of years. We were like,
did you realize that you didn't feel alone anymore? Or did you still feel alone?
No, that's a great question, bro. Aloneness was an interesting one. I got okay with that before I met Kim. I got real fine with, when I dated, I used to tell everybody about everybody else. Like I'm cool. If you want to be a regular, like on Tuesdays, that's cool. We can go out on Tuesdays or stay home or do whatever. Like I'm busy on Friday looking for something new and strange and different. And Saturday, it's kind of a hot night. And just, I thought that was by being honest about not being monogamous or faithful. I thought that was the right way. Like, I thought that was I was checking the box. So I started dating Kim. She was like, huh? She's like, no, it's them or it's me. But you're not dating all of us. And I was like, okay, I choose you. And she was like, why would you choose me? And I'm like, because no one else stood up and said that. So you must be worth something. But by then I was already okay with being alone. I'd already gone through being violent. Talk about being rowdy. I went out and I hurt a lot of people in my youth on purpose because I thought that there was like a quickening, like the power would come back to me and I would feel restored from everything that John Chandler stole from me and tried to kill in me. And I found out that there was no quickening. You just felt bad for beating somebody. And I tell my sons, I'm like, hey, look, in the movies when you punch somebody in the face a bunch of times, that's not what it looks like.
Right.
It's not at all what it looks like. And so to say I was rowdy was, I was rowdy. I wasn't on a self-destruction phase fully, but I didn't know where the brake pedal was on a car. All I knew where the gas was, and I thought it was my right to drive as fast as I wanted to and as reckless. And I sort of, enough pain. You spend enough time getting beat up by the police for it. You start changing. You spend a couple nights, on the weekends in the jail cell for beating on people. So I think I was really toned down, and I worked in construction. I had a lot of downtime after hours because I was a real workaholic. And then the quiet time, I didn't turn on the radio. I just listened to my thoughts and sort of had to restructure a lot of those stories and where I came from. So by the time I met Kim, the only thing I wasn't really clear about was my anger with my mom. I just felt really disappointed in my mom, and I didn't know how to prove it, say it, word it, or anything. But I watched Kim be a mom to her boys, and I thought, that's the thing I keep saying is that's how it was supposed to be. It's supposed to look like that, not like what I got. And so it was really healing to watch her be really, really amazing as a mom, as a friend, as a human being. She was, she kept it super simple. And so I think it was easy to adjust to her and finish toning it all down. But I was already cool with being alone, and I wasn't feeling lonely because I had tons of, things to play with until I met her. And then with her, it wasn't playing house, but it was like growing up. And it was like, okay, we're going to do this. And, I have an influence on her kids, so I gotta tighten it up. And she's like, hey, are you gonna kick in on the finances? And I was like, huh? They're your kids. You're kind of living here. And I was like, yeah, I guess I would. So I started working, and she said, I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh, or we're pregnant. So I worked 7 days a week for like 5 years. So I was like, yeah, my boy's never gonna be broke.
Yeah, you were really good to the other boys too. I remember.
Yeah, they were great. A lot of that goes to them, and I didn't. The story I told myself, which really you're going to hear me say that a lot, is what story you're telling yourself. The story I told myself was their dad's still around. They got a great mom. My job is to just not mess them up, be cool, and set the rules. And so I just, they were having a hard time with the divorce and all that stuff. And he was, we're good friends now, but their dad, Jim, was like, oh, yeah, can't get you anything for Christmas because your mom's buying stuff for her new boyfriend, Theo, and which was a lie. And, he was always kind of beating on. I just said, look, your dad's hurting. He's upset, but he's your dad. I'm not trying to be your dad. I love your mom. You guys are a package deal. So we can either be really cool buds or we can fight all the time. You choose, pick it. And that's what we'll go with. And it's okay if you want to fight, I understand. But I don't want to. And they just both looked at me and they just like, I don't want to fight. I'm like, me either. So we can be cool friends? Come on, man. High five. And so I knew I still had to treat them like that they needed to be raised, but I didn't have the pressure. My story was the pressure wasn't on me because they still had a dad. As it turns out, Jim needed to go do his stuff too. And so they would really need to have a father figure that would model the Christian faith and fidelity and kindness and respect for their mom and to treat her like the queen that she is and to protect her. And so I think that it all started clicking really fast. God's gracious, man. He's just so good, and if we'll just soften to him, he'll show us, where to be and where to go.
Yeah, Jim had some work to do. I like Jim a lot. He's a nice guy, but I'm glad he wasn't my dad. I mean, my dad was no treat either, but he was like, I think, a hurt little boy too. So.
Oh, yeah. And we're great friends today. I like him a lot. We see each other. He's moved out here to Boise, Idaho, too, to be, with the run of Boise.
Cool.
It's back to San Diego. And so it's fun that he hits both. And I think he's doing the best he's ever done in life. He's making smart decisions. But like any of us, man, we're all susceptible to addiction, use, abuse. Like, and he was just free falling. I was climbing up and he was going down. And I remember the first time he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I'm really glad you're in Kim's life. She needs somebody good like you to treat her right." I screwed that all up. And I was like, "Hey, cool. I'm glad you're comfortable with these conversations that I do not want to have with you again."
Yeah.
Our birthdays are a few days apart. There was one year where just wasn't a lot happening positive in his life. And I just said, "He can't put his name on my cake too. Let's just have a birthday for him and invite him over." He's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's not make it happen." And so I said, "Happy birthday, Theo and Jim."
That's funny. Yeah, it's a very interesting, my story, and the man who raised my daughter, I love that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
As once I was an adult, I'm like, man, I'm so thankful for that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Praise God. I agree with you, man. God puts the right people in our lives and in our children's lives, and our path.
All right, let's move on to Kim's cancer. Unless there's a gap there that you want to fill.
No, bro, I'm glad to go anywhere and everywhere.
Okay. So tell me how you became the cancer warrior.
Yeah, well, I started out by getting really fat. I had a heart attack. We were close to retiring. I managed to not put some stuff into a contract with a huge beverage company, and they went sideways, and we lost everything. And I got a car accident, had a heart attack, and Jim was feeling pretty vulnerable. We're kind of making our way through that, good year or two under our belt. And then I expanded from San Diego up to Chicago, Illinois for a second real estate office. And we're just expanding and going. And I come home around about this time of year in 2014. And she says, "Hey," our youngest is turning 18. She's turning 49, I think. And then she says, "Adam's about to have a baby. Mike's getting married. Big time." And she says, "I got a lump." And I was like, "Oh man, well, I don't know what to do. Just to a doctor, just figure it out or whatever." But in my mind, I remember when my mom was diagnosed while I was, in university and trying to be a doctor and become something. And I had to drop out and take care of her. My mom suffered through her treatments and then ultimately had some real problems, but she would live a long time. My mom ended up living probably 15, 16 years with cancer. But I was like, great. So I'm fat, I'm old, I've had a heart attack, or I feel like I'm prematurely old, and life is hard. And if she gets through this for a while and then goes, who am I with the boys? Does our relationship stand the test of time? So it starts out with Kim. We talk about our options. We start putting a team together. We have this weird thing where some friends of ours had a boat made in La Rochelle, France, and we made a commitment to help them get that boat sailed across the Atlantic and over to the Eastern Caribbean, and the girls were going to join us. And so, Kim and I talked about it. She was like, "Yeah, nothing's going to change." We talked to the doctor, like, "Yeah, you got time." So I went out, I sailed across, losing my mind for 3 weeks for so many reasons, but losing my mind because all the fat phones felt like she was drunk all the time. She thought I was drunk all the time, and I was just trying to run business. We thought we were going to be out of touch for maybe 9 days, and international 23. And we get into St. Lucia. We kick the rest of the crew off, and our wives come in, and we take the next 10 days, and we sail down to Grenada, and it was magical. We get home, and June 1, we start dealing with cancer, and pretty quickly things start getting weird and unrolling and unraveling in ways not expected. And I was working on a big project to solve water for places that have big, huge weather events or impoverished and they don't have clean drinking water. And so we were working on a project, and then Kim said that she was, we were trying to put this team together. And because I just told everybody, "Look, I'm selling everything. I'm closing the business in Chicago. I'm selling a business in San Diego. I'm walking away from another business, and I'm just not going to be involved in this other one." And I said, "I'm just going to be here for my wife until we figure out, what's going on," which was huge because that was not our relationship. Kim had always been important, but that was a moment where I definitely showed up in the beginning a different way. And so she was feeling pretty loved and supported. I was running interference on things that were causing stress. And then a good friend of mine that I was working with on the project said, hey, you got to go talk to James. James had throat cancer, and he cured it with a juicing protocol. And I was like, bro, Kim does not have throat cancer, and I'm not doing that. Why would I want to talk? Oh, you got to. So James calls, come to my house. Don't go to your oncologist. We're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So we went to, Jim's like, let's go see what he has to say. And Jim, this guy James was in the best health. And in 2001, he'd had stage 4 esophageal. He's a PhD, and he went the hard way before Google, before Yahoo and all that stuff. He figured out how to treat it naturally and cured it. His father and his uncle had both passed away from the same disease, and he had seen them do conventional, and he was just upset that he wasn't going to do it. So here he was, and so we adopted it. We're like, all right, yeah, I'll do it with you, because I knew that Kim, I don't know if she admitted to it, but that girl loved Taco Bell at the time. So convenient, right next to her Starbucks cup. And so she just wasn't a very good eater and small in body weight, so she never had to worry about getting out of shape or being fat. So I said, I'll do this with you. And so we're going to add this to what we're doing. And I was like 275, that wasn't horrible. I don't know if you remember, but I just fall asleep anywhere and everywhere. I fall asleep driving I fall asleep at a street light.
You said that's a pre-diabetic condition?
Yeah, that's a clear sign. If you're falling asleep, that's a clear sign that you've got an insulin resistance and you're well on your way to, and already are, and for all intents and purposes, you're a type 2 diabetic. And so it was great to start to juice with her. Within 2 weeks, we were both looking at each other going, hey, you seeing something? She's like, yeah, my vision. How about yours? I'm like, it's crazy. It's like the veil's been lifted. It's like everything's really bright and crisp. And yeah, and 2 weeks later, we go to the new team and they measure her up, and she's got a 50% reduction in the tumor. We're like, high five, They're like, oh yeah, that's just, diet doesn't matter. We're like, well, it must, because something changed. They go, yeah, but she's got metastatic disease in the lower quadrant of the same breast. So they wanted another MRI. So it'd be 30 more days later, we get another MRI, and the tumor's another 45%, 50% smaller than it was the month before. But she has implants, so they use an MRI guide, and they managed to rupture her right implant, and then they did a mammogram, rupture the left implant in this thing, 1 to 2 week period. We're like, this is weird. So now you have 2 leaking implants. They want to do another MRI to see how much the silicone spread. We're like, okay, this is getting rough. And so the tumor's another 38% smaller, 35% smaller. And we're like, yeah, we got to get out of here. So I went on, we were out of there in 100 days, no chemo, radiation, or mastectomy. And we just kind of escaped the system and just sort of regrouped, and then people started showing up asking questions, and we were trying to answer the best we could. We didn't really know a lot, but I was feeling great, man. I lost, in the first 5 months, I probably had lost like 80 pounds. I lost 110 11 months, and then I started competing in the Spartan competitions, and I was down I got to my fighting weight at 157 pounds. I went from a 40-inch waist tight to wear a 30-inch pair of jeans.
Wow.
Thanks for listening to All My Rowdy Friends Are Christians Now, brought to you by TWO Publishing. Please take a couple of seconds to subscribe, like, and most importantly, share this podcast with your family and friends. It could be the start of their journey towards salvation and eternal joy. If you have any comments, feel free to share them. We would love to hear your feedback. May God bless you.
Yeah, that's amazing. They were probably going, oh, we better break those implants so we can poison her before she gets better, all the way better,
I don't know what they were thinking, but man, did they mess up. And life's never been the same ever since. Cancer is the best thing that ever happened to us. Terrifying. I hate that it happens to anybody, but it started becoming really sort of a deep sense of obligation or responsibility to pass along what we had seen and learned. And pretty quickly I got headhunted for a medical meal startup. I had to put a medical advisory team together. They're all stars of disease reversal. I'm sharing the story. They're helping to educate me. I go back and I get some more education and some degrees, and keep plowing forward. And then I'm like, all along we really wanted to do either a documentary, which we tried, which was horrible, and it went sideways. It was not good. To open up a clinic, and eventually in 2019 we opened up the clinic in Costa Rica called the Vita Center, and to do 3 studies. There are practice-based cross-sectional observationals, 3 different groups of disease and 2 study groups in each, and then a control group back in Texas. And off we went to go learn a bunch, prove a bunch, do a bunch, and praise God, it was really rewarding, very taxing. I definitely felt like it nearly got us, and then COVID hit.
Hi, everybody. It's Norm. This seems as good a spot as any to stop this interview and let you know that it's going to be a 3-parter. Our buddy, the wild man Theo, can really tell a story. So it was about 110 minutes, this full interview. So I'm going to break it up into 3. I should have another one for you in a couple weeks. And then again, the 3rd part will be on the 1st of next month. So I appreciate your patience, and I hope you enjoyed this part 1 of 3. All my rowdy friends are Christians now. We'll see you in a couple weeks. All my rowdy friends are Christians now. A testimony podcast.